Amr ibn Abd al-Wid took the flag, and it was time for him to make his presence known and do what he came for. He took with him only a couple of warriors. As they came in, the Muslims could not believe their eyes. A man of this bravery to come in against all of us. And he would come in with his flag and his sword and his warriors behind him, smiling, and come closer and closer. Rasulullah stood in his way. As Amr was approaching, Rasulullah stood from across him. Amr stopped and Rasulullah stood. And Amr began to shout towards the Prophet, "You say you are Rasulullah, and you say those with you, if they die, they go to heaven. So I say to you, which one of you wants to go to heaven?" And he would laugh. He says, "These are the Muslims. These are the people who defeated the Quraysh in Badr and Uhud." He would notice their cowardice. Rasulullah stood with all the Muslims behind him. And as Amr would throw his taunts towards the Prophet, Rasulullah turned around and he says, "Man li Amr?" Who will go and fight Amr? Who is prepared to risk their lives? No one stands up except Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Imam Ali stands and says, "Ana lahu, ya Nabi Allah." Amr is for me, and I am for him. The Prophet says, "Ya Ali, sit down. You've always been the one to go and fight. Sit down here." And Rasulullah does this for a reason. Because no one can say afterwards in history that Imam Ali alayhi salam was always the first one to rush into battle, and that's why he was always the hero of all the battles and all wars. No. Rasulullah would give an opportunity to all of these Muslims and all of these people, so that people would see in history that it was only Ali that was courageous enough to go and defend Islam and risk his life in the process. Of course, Imam Ali alayhi salam sits down straight away. Prophet Muhammad asks once again, "Man li Amr?" Again, no one stands up. Imam Ali stands up again. "Ana lahu ya Rasulullah." So the Prophet says, "Anta lahu ya Ali." He brings him forward. He kisses him. Then he takes his helmet and he puts it onto Ali's head. And he gives Imam Ali alayhi salam the Dhul Fiqar. And so Ali ibn Abi Talib approaches Amr and looks at him in the eyes. And before Amr, with his towering presence, could question who Imam Ali is, Amir al-Mu'mineen looks at him and says, "Who are you?" This has never been asked to Amr before. He is the most famous warrior in Arabia. He looks at him, bewildered, and says, "I am Amr ibn Abd al-Wid. And who are you?" So he says, "Ana Ali ibn Abi Talib." He says, "Your father is Abu Talib. He was a friend of mine many years ago. Go back, son of Abu Talib. I don't want to hurt you." And the Imam smirks and says, "But I want to hurt you." So Amr sees the audacity of this young man, only about 28 years old, challenging the warrior of Yalya. They draw swords and rush towards each other, and they begin to fight. And the sand around their feet begins to rise. And so, as the Confederates watch, finally, Ali, the one who had been killing all of our people, is going to get what he deserves. They see no one can stand in the way of Amr, even Ali. As the sand begins to rise, they no longer see what's happening in the middle of the sand. The Muslims likewise are watching from their side, and they see movement, but they can't see who is winning. Meanwhile, Imam Ali alayhi salam is fighting with Amr, and Amr strikes the sword onto Imam Ali's helmet. It cuts through, and the blood begins to drip from Imam Ali's forehead. The Imam gets out of the way and keeps fighting until he swipes at the legs of Amr. And so Amr bends over and Imam Ali Islam strikes him down for the final strike. Amr falls onto the ground. Now, without any legs to stand on, the Imam has won this battle, not yet known to those watching. Asadullah, the Lion of God, approaches Amr to deal him the final blow as he raises his sword. Amr says hurtful words to the Imam and spits at him. When Amr spits at Imam Ali, the Imam stops and puts his sword down and begins to walk. And now the Muslims, they see Imam Ali alayhi salam and his figure walking around in the middle of the sand, confused. Then they hear Allahu Akbar. And they see Imam Ali alayhi salam emerge from the sand. All the Muslims begin to scream, Allahu Akbar. Rasulullah begins to scream, Allahu Akbar. The Confederates are in complete shock. Imam Ali alayhi salam runs towards those warriors that came with Amr and kills them too. And as he makes his way back, as he is covered in this blood of his forehead, and after killing Amr, he comes back, Rasulullah sees Imam Ali alayhi salam and his heroics, and he says, the strike of Ali on the day of Khandaq is equal to the worship of both the jinn and mankind. He comes and Rasulullah says, Ya Ali, as the Muslims are celebrating, Ali, why were you walking? He says, I walked, Ya Rasulullah, because when I came to give him his final blow, he spat at me. And so I became angry. And I am the lion of Allah. I am not the lion of myself. So I dropped my sword to his astonishment. And I walked until I became calm and tranquil. And then I killed him for Allah. And this is truly the lion of God. And this was the turning point for Islam.